amazing. Hi legends and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to talk about the old-fashioned cocktail. We are going to first make a contemporary recipe like how you would see me doing it at the bar. We are going to talk about the history behind it and are we sure that it was the first cocktail created and it was not just a spin-off or something else? Let's just delve into it. My name is Alessandro, an Italian mixologist with over 15 years of professional experience. My journey has taken me from the dolce vita cocktails of Italy to the vibrant scenes of London, Amsterdam, Spain, Australia, Canada, and now here in Switzerland. Along the way, I've perfected my craft alongside industry superstars and curated a wealth of global cocktail knowledge. Stick around as we dive into the art of mixology together. To make an old-fashioned, it's, as is defined primordially, it's a mixture of spirit, kind of any, but in this case it's called for whiskey, angostura, sugar, bitters, angostura, and water. Now we are going to put the water in a contemporary manner by diluting ice. So let's get started. So you're using essentially just whiskey. In this case we are using bourbon. Because definitely was born in America. No, the rest we don't know. 60 milliliter, I believe. It's a fair usage of it. I'm just going to leave it here. We're going to use it in a moment. So then sugar syrup, then yeah, you can count it, but like 5 to 10 milliliter should do the job. And angostura bitters, the most popular. I personally like to put a little bit more of sugar and angostura because I like not to stir it down phenomenally. So I like to give it a full flavor profile. So now we are just going to use the ice. And we are just going to stir this down for a little. In this case they are not regular ice cubes, but I have ice blocks which I cracked with the ice pick. This thing over here, you probably saw it in some movie, but yeah, it does the job well. So you just need to stir it down, check the temperature, make sure that it's chilled enough and it's ready to go as you desire it. Okay, it's going down. Like, don't be shy, there are like bartenders that in the original recipes were also say that you need to melt the actual caster sugar and you need to keep going for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So it is going to take a moment, but in modern bars you cannot afford to spend that much time on a drink for obvious reasons. So I'm just going to write down the recipe for you, maybe it's easier, and I'm going to take the glass and coming back. So here we are, I'm back. Just no more than a minute and a half passed, so I'm going to go ahead and strain the old-fashioned in the glass. Now I'm using a very big cube of ice, so this one should be stirred down a little bit, like made fit in the glass, but I'm just going to use a little bar hack, which I'm going to pour the alcohol, so it will melt a little. See, now it's just super easy. This one is the best way to present it because in this way you are not going to ruin the cocktail itself. You see, now it went down, created the right level. Then garnish, you will want to put like an orange peel. Okay, squeeze it, pass it to the rim, and don't make it look too bad, okay? Something else that you want to add, it's a nice maraschino cherry. In this case I'm using the homemade ones, made by me. And that's how you just made an old-fashioned cocktail. For you to enjoy. But did you know a little trivia, and that is that the word cocktail exists because of this one specifically. It got created just a couple of days after my birthday, in the 13th of May in 1806, by a newspaper that was simply quoting it as the cocktail. And then some reader just asked, what is a cocktail? And they just gave a first definition saying the cocktail, or bitter sling, kind of libation, is a mixture of spirit, water, sugar and bitters. And that was basically the initial definition of cocktail. But now, was the original old fashioned made exactly like this in 1806? Now, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Because in 1806 the commercial ice was also created. But globalization was not exactly like it is today. So it's not that you create a startup, boom, everybody's got the ice in their bars. I think it took a while before this actually happened, starting from the most prestigious and then going down. So the original old fashioned most likely was not basically involving ice, or in very little selected bars around the globe, because commercial ice was discovered for being sold especially to the Caribbeans in 1806, but out of this, believe me, I'm going to make a video, so don't worry about it. Now we are going to make the whiskey cocktail, because the whiskey cocktail is the one that started creating the old fashioned, and the reason why the old fashioned is today called old fashioned, it's because it was simply the best and the most ordered no matter what. What do you mean, man? So yeah, we'll just leave it right here. So whiskey cocktail was created a lot before, so say at least 1690. The first bitter companies in pharmacies essentially were coming to life and were starting making bitters that then start being enjoyed, especially mixed with spirits, because spirits back then sucked compared to the ones today, so completely different world. And the way it was getting to life was exactly this. So it was many presidents in America really like whiskey because of course there was patriotic and stuff. So they wanted whiskey and bitters kind of together. With the addition of some sugar, it then became what is called the whiskey cocktail, which I'm going to make while I keep explaining the rest. So it was made with actually just the sugar, because sugar syrup I don't think that they came up with that much before. So I'm just going to go ahead and try to recreate it as it was made back then. So let's say 2 spoons, something like this. And then it was made with the bitters, of course. Okay, put well, and then think also that the alcohol percentage back in the days was through a different taxation. This is just water, which I'm going to use to kind of dilute. Love yourself, Alessandro. Put a bit more. So originally it was made in this way, and this was the whiskey cocktail. But the taxation back then was involving the alcohol to be taxed on the liter. So of course they were keeping it as boozy as possible to pay less taxes. Like taxes always kill businesses, so of course you want to stay out of it in the most legal form as much as you want, of course. So you see, now it kind of created almost a syrup in the glass. So basically prep, absent prep back then. And from here you're just going to add your very nice, not as alcohol content as it was back then, of your chosen whiskey, in this case American, so bourbon. And this is it. But why I still did not explain you why this cocktail was actually called old fashioned. Whiskey cocktail was normally served straight up because formerly it was created in 1870s, probably even before, honestly. So of course there was no ice because they did not invent it in 1780s. So it did not exist yet, the ice. So what do you want from me? You know, it's like, no, Bob, why did you not make this in the metaverse? It's like, hey, yo, 20 years ago did not exist. What do you want from me? So, you know, that was the reason. So, formally, the whiskey cocktail by itself is now served straight up still. And I'm also going to put a very rough, to make it proprio real, little piece of orange. I don't think that they had maraschino cherries back then that much. I'm just going to dump it inside. Done. And this is what you would say a whiskey cocktail looked like. I'm just waiting before trying it and you will understand the reason. So the difference between these two drinks came to life because of the difference of the year essentially. This signal at the end of an era and this one signal the beginning of an era. A way brighter one, if you want to say it, for drinks specifically. So all the way, Whisky Cocktail kept evolving because bartenders were adding maybe some juices, some other stuff. So they were keeping evolving the Whisky Cocktail to other different, and then they start eventually calling them for fancy whiskey cocktail and stuff like this. And then of course ice was starting taking over when old fashioned came to life, that then it became kind of standardized to try to make a whiskey cocktail fancy using the ice, and then that's why it kind of kept old in it. But back then they were making fancy cocktails, and people, to kind of ask exactly this one that you see now, they were asking for, I want the old-fashioned whiskey cocktail. The old-fashioned whiskey cocktail, the old-fashioned whiskey cocktail, the old-fashioned cocktail, the old-fashioned. You know what I mean? So this is how basically the beginner of the word cocktail came to life, and this is a very nice way to make it. And this one, it's a drink that I'm still thinking what to do, because formerly, with even a higher alcohol percentage, it was said that it was needed to be drunk on the spot, like in one single sip, which is what I'm going to do now. Let's hope. You see, there is no all the sugar dissolved, so this makes sense. Other bartenders back in the days, very influential too, started making, especially in London, when I started working around more than a decade ago in there, they were making it in the kind of old-fashioned manner as well, for which they were just putting the sugar cubes, a little bit of soda, which by the way did not exist commercially or barely back then, and then they were just keeping using one ice cube and a little bit of whiskey and keep adding and adding and adding for 10-15 minutes until it was done. It was coming out nice, but you can apply a little bit more chemistry behind it. Don't be surprised if some bartenders, to try to impress you, will do this version. If it happens for you to try both, tell me which one you like more in a comment down below. And I hope you like this video. I've been doing a lot of other classics, a lot of other homemade videos, a lot of other stuff, so stay tuned for more by subscribing. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.